It's that time again for the Lawn Fawn fans fall YouTube hop and giveaway. We are so excited to be sponsored by Lawn Fawn. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lawn Fawn, for sponsoring us. There is a $25 gift card that is available. In order to participate, you do need to leave comments. One lucky winner will be chosen. I will have all of the additional information linked in the description box below. Here are a look at the products that I'm using from the recent release. I have the fall leaves backdrop as well as the beautiful pumpkin house. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock, and I am going to do some ink blending on it using some Catherine Pooler ink. I started with Mandarin spice. I'm adding in a little bit of juniper mist. This is Samba, which is a beautiful mustardy yellow. I'll add a little bit of the orange peel as well as the stone blue, and then I'll blend in just a little bit more with some of the other colors again, just to get a deeper blend. I am going to cut this out using the fall leaves backdrop. That backdrop does leave a center area that punches out of it. I'm going to use that piece of paper to cut out the remaining items from this die set. So there is the background frame, and then there are also a cluster of dies that are leaves and acorns, and you can see right there that I used that beautiful piece in the middle to cut those out. I'm going to glue my acorn to the top of the bunch, so right there you can see that there is a die for that. And once I get those glued on, I'm going to do some ink blending onto another A2 size card panel. I'm going to use the orange peel this time, and then once I get this blended, I'll use the pumpkin die, the outline die, and I'll take it over to my die cutting machine, and that's what I end up with. I'm going to add a little bit more depth around the edges with the Mandarin spice. And then I had a piece of orange cardstock, and I did cut it out a second time. So I cut the pumpkin out a second time. There are some stitched lines on the left and the right side of the pumpkin. I used those to cut around. I'm going to add a little bit of Mandarin spice to this, and then I'm going to add some foam tape because I do want to add some dimension to my pumpkin. There is a flat part of this piece, and I have it on the wrong side. I'm going to realize it in just a moment, so it makes it easy if you're paying attention to line everything up. And once I see with this side, I'm going to be like, oops, I have them on the wrong spot. I'm going to switch them over, and that looks much better. I'm going to work on the windows. Or actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to start with the door. So I cut out the door and I blended it with some vintage photo. And now I wanted to add a little bit more dimension using the walnut stain. So adding that darker color around the outside just helps bring the door a little bit more to life. I'm going to take a little piece of scrap paper and I'm going to use that Samba again. I'll cut out all of the little perforated areas for the window, and I'll add that piece of yellow paper right behind it. And then we'll start working on our windows. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of the door. I'll add the door to the center of my pumpkin. Now, this is a hop, as I mentioned, so I will have the next person linked in the description box below. I will also have the entire list of all the participants because we do have some new participants in our group and we're so excited to have them. So I will have everybody linked so you can be sure not to miss anybody on this hop. Each time you leave a comment, that is an entry, so you have a better chance of winning as you stop and watch each of the videos and leave a comment. So we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and we hope that you're as in love with Lawn Fawn as this group of people are. Here I have the windows cut out the first time. I'm going to cut them out a second time. So the first set was blended with vintage photo. I'm adding Samba to the second set. Here's a mistake I made. I'm just going to throw this out there to begin with. I should have taped those little pieces for the window. I should have turned that yellow piece of paper over and taped those in. I am going to fiddle with these windows quite a bit. So you're going to see they're going to go in a couple different spots. They're going to be crooked in a couple different places, but fear not, I am going to get this figured out by the end of the video and the final shots that you see. So I started with my windows on the inside, and then I looked and thought, well, maybe I want to add more adornments around the door, and I need to move the windows more to the outside. So I will pick that window up as well. I'm going to add the foam tape. Now, remember, I have dimension on the left and the right side of that pumpkin, so I'm only adding one piece of foam tape to either side of those windows. And then I decided to add a second piece of foam tape because I was going to move them to the outside, which I really don't like, but we'll get back to that. Here is the top of the jack-o'-lantern. I decided to go with sage to color that up. I'm going to cut that out 2 more times, and we are going to add a little bit of dimension and give this a bit of a chipboard feel. I'll go around the edges because I do have those layers of white. I want to make sure that you're not seeing those white edges, so I'm going to take that same sage ink and I am going to go all around the edges with that, and I like it so much better. It gives it a much more finished look. This little pumpkin house comes with so many fun accessories. Oh my goodness, there's lanterns and there's a door stoop. There are flowers. There were so many different directions that I could have taken this, but I decided to cut out the vines right here, and I'm using, I believe, that same sage ink. And those are the pieces that were left over from the fall leaves backdrop that I had cut previously. I'm just kind of dry fitting everything. I know I want that pumpkin to kind of sit in those bottom leaves, so I want it to be tucked in there. And once I decide what I want, I think that those vines right there need more color. I start with the Samba, and I don't like that, so I end up bringing in the darker Mandarin spice for the bottom of the leaves, and I like that so much better. Here I'm going to add just a little bit of more dimension to the windows. These are some window boxes. I have that stone blue ink, so I'm tying all the same ink colors in to add some cohesiveness to this. I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of that, and then I'm going to glue these to the bottom of my window. Once I finish with this, my finished card is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. It's going to be a top folding card. And so I am going to do a little bit of ink blending on that card base just to make sure that behind where that open space is, where the fall leaves backdrop has cut out that center, I wanted to add a little bit of color. Here I'm going to glue down my windows. You're going to see for a long time that they're going to be crooked, and I keep fussing. I cut it out, but I kept fussing with it, trying to straighten it. Eventually, off camera, at the end of this, I do take them both off and I just redo it. So here's where I'm adding that Samba to the background so that I have a little bit more of that glow behind the pumpkin, and I'm going to put my fall leaves backdrop over it, glue it with some art glitter glue. Notice that I'm not adding glue to the bottom leaves because I want to tuck that pumpkin in. So I made sure not to add glue to the tops of those leaves at the bottom. And I love how pretty this is. I think that this is a really beautiful color combination. I have a thing for blue this fall. I don't know, just adding blue to my cards has just been really making me very happy. I had to use my tweezers to pick up those leaves, make sure that I could get this tucked nicely. It's going to be a little wonky, you'll see, but that's okay. I've added some glue to the back of my pumpkin, and I've placed it where I want it. Now I'm going to add those vines. And so I have these vines right here. You notice that I'm allowing them to come up to the base of that windowsill. I thought about adding some flowers there, but I thought, you know, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go with more of the fall leaves and leave it pretty simple. So I'm going to add the one to the right side. And you notice that I am only gluing the bottom portion, so those actually lift up and move. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of these leaves because I do want them to stand up, because I'm adding them over the edge of the pumpkin, and the pumpkin does have that dimension on it. I do want to make sure that my leaves are not going to bend if I send them in the mail. And then I'll add the rest of the leaf cluster. Once I add the other cluster, I think that it just needs a little something more. So off camera, I am going to tie a bow. I have I have something called a bow-it-all, and it helps tie bows. And so I do end up tying like a 4-loop bow out of some jute twine that I did have in my stash. And I think that it just finished off the top of this card much more nicely. I did off camera, well, I didn't do it off camera, I did film it. I stamped out the happy, happy, happy right there. I stacked that 3 times. I was off screen most of the way, and I thought that it just looked terrible, so I'm just telling you what I did. I blended the background with the stone blue, cut out the word happy, and then I stamped it with the stamp using the Juniper mist. Again, as I mentioned, this is 3 pieces stacked together, and that gave me that nice chipboard feel. I didn't like the word Thanksgiving on the front. I just didn't think that it fit very well, so I ended up adding it to the inside so it says Happy Thanksgiving. But I do need to fill in that space, I believe, over on the right. And so I'm going to take 2 more leaves that came from the fall leaves backdrop. I'm blending it with orange peel and Juniper mist, and I'm going to glue those to my panel. And that is going to be my card for today. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. Please make sure that you head over to the next person in the stop. I want to thank Lawn Fawn again for generously offering a $25 gift card for this hop. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.